welcome to this video on DNS zone takeovers with Google Cloud Platform. In this video, I'm going to explain what DNS zones are, what DNS zone levels are, give some examples of what that looks like, and hopefully that'll help with triage teams as well. Then I'm going to explain what DNS zone takeovers are, how they differ from traditional subdomain takeovers. Then I'm going to create a new subdomain that we're going to take over in this video, and at the end I will drop some hints on some subdomains that I will create that you guys can take over utilizing some of the information that I provide in this video. And I'll be doing a giveaway and for anybody who can take these over and put up a cool takeover page. All right, let's get started. So what is a DNS zone? Well, I'm not going to read this whole thing here, but I will like to read this DNS zone levels, and you can get the rest of this from ns1.net. I'll drop a link in the description. This part I just really want to emphasize to help with VulnOps teams and triage teams. So the DNS defines a domain namespace, which specifies TLDs, second level domains, lower level domains, also called subdomains. And what's not here is also that subdomains of subdomains, which are still called subdomains, can all exist in its own DNS zone. So each one of these levels can be a DNS zone. And I think that's really key for VulnOps teams to understand, is that just because a subdomain shares a common parent domain such as support.acme.com, it doesn't mean that it's a duplicate. Absolutely not. Every single separate zone is its separate zone. So that's just really, really important, for being able to triage these things properly and getting them fixed. And hopefully it'll make sense as I move along in this video. Here's a little example I put together to showcase the DNS zone levels. I'm just going to go down this left side here, but we do see that we have two separate zones with two different TLDs. So let's go ahead and go down this left side here. So we have this zone of example.com. It has two children zones, please sub.example.com and engage.example.com. Each one of these are separate zones. Now this zone can contain, MX, CNAME, text records, A records, name server records, basically have full granular control over the DNS for this zone. Same as you would with any other parent zone, each one can have full granular control over the DNS, which makes this a lot more dangerous than a traditional subdomain takeover. Going further, you can see that we have, this YT, just for YouTube, I guess, .pleasesub.example.com. This zone can also have its own MX records, CNAME records, text records, A records, NS records, etc. It's a unique zone with its own unique granular control over the DNS for that particular zone. And again, this is why it's so important for VulnOps teams and triage teams to understand that if, for example, we had YouTube here, but we also had a Twitter zone. Now, if YouTube was reported and that Twitter one was not, the YouTube one gets accepted, and then 6 months down the line, the Twitter one gets submitted, and the VulnOps team rejects it, saying that it's a duplicate because they feel like the please subdomain was already reported. Obviously that's not the case. These are completely unique zones, completely unique control, and they all stem from unique circumstances. So very, very important. Hopefully that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense, please ask the questions in the chat or the comments below, and I'll do my best to explain it in more detail. So what is a zone takeover then? So similar to a traditional subdomain takeover that utilizes a CNAME or an A record, we find these zone takeovers by finding Dangling NS records. These Dangling NS records usually point to managed DNS zone that doesn't exist, and that could have never existed or just doesn't exist anymore. Some of these managed DNS services allow you to create a zone with no domain verification. For example, AWS, GCP, and A2 hosting. There's probably plenty more. These are just the ones that I'm more familiar with. And I'm going to be going over GCP in this video. I might go over A2 hosting in a future video. Yeah. So I went ahead and reserved this domain, wwallace.xyz. And I'm just showing here that these are the records that were provisioned after I registered that domain. I'm going to be using this domain in future videos as well to do some demos and things. Really not anything else for this particular slide. Just that just want to show that we've got wwallace.xyz and default DNS records. So as we can see, we don't have any DNS zones in my newly created GCP account. So we're gonna create one, and hopefully we can get lucky and take over the please sub .wwallace.xyz subdomain. That is our goal for this video. If we go here, we can see there's nothing here. So we're gonna do a dig, and I believe this should come back. Yeah, so we have here a dig of please sub.wwallace.xyz, and these NS records are pointing to the A shard in Google Cloud Platform. However, there is no zone created inside Google Cloud Platform for this subdomain. So if we did do another dig of this, we'll get an error or a timeout because it's not going to be able to resolve this zone with on this name server. And that's sort of how you figure out whether or not something is vulnerable to a name server takeover. So yeah, no servers could be reached. Basically, it's telling us that this subdomain, this zone, does not exist on these name servers. The way that we find these, though, because it would take a long time to do all these manually, there's plenty of tools out there, plenty of subdomain takeover tools that do scan for subdomain for DNS zone takeovers. My favorite one has actually been DNS Reaper, and I'll post a link in the description of the video. And I think I have it in tools, DNS Reaper main, and you can throw a file at this, which is what I usually do when I'm hunting on something with a wide scope, or I've just discovered a bunch of subdomains for a particular target. But we can also do a single domain. Really enjoy this tool. I think that it was really well done. And let's go ahead. XYZ. And I think that's all you need. That's going to do 59 signatures. We don't need all 59, so I'm going to just go ahead and, since we know it's a Google Cloud takeover, it should take about 10 seconds or so. And if you remember when we did that dig, it took a couple seconds for it to fail. So yeah, DNS Reaper found that this subdomain is available for takeover using Google Cloud. if I didn't specify the signature, we would have gotten, I think, two results. One would have been from the generic name server, a missing name server signature, as well as this one. So just to let you know, like if you do run this and you don't have that signature of Google Cloud, and it finds one from Google Cloud, you'll get two results back for the same domain. So let's go ahead and try to take this over. So we can take this over using the interface here. I traditionally use the Cloud Shell, but I'm just going to see if we can give this a shot here. And the way we're going to do this is we know that we need to get name servers on the A shard. So when we provision this zone, and we can name it anything we want, but I typically like to name things like similar to what we're trying to take over. So like we want to take over please sub, and we know that we want the A shard. So I will also include that and the attempt that, which is this is the first attempt. So I'll usually name it something like this. You can do whatever you want though. Please sub dot wwallace dot xyz, and we can totally make this a secure zone. And let's see what one we're provisioned. So we were provisioned when we created this zone, and it provisioned it in the C shard. So this is not going to be a successful takeover for this attempt. But you know, the thing is, you can try up to 5 times. So there's 6 different shards. Google Cloud will ask for verification if you're trying to reserve all shards for a particular zone or particular subdomain. So if you try to create 6 different zones, it'll ask for domain verification. But let's see if we can get lucky on the second attempt here. And I should just copy this so I don't have to type it out every time. Okay, let's see what we got. Oh, and we got it. So we now have this zone on these name servers. So essentially we just took over that subdomain. And I'll show you. If we do another dig, now we don't have an error. So there's no error now on that subdomain. So let's go ahead and create a proof of concept and sort of like just showcase the implications of an NS zone takeover. So now that we have that zone, we can just go ahead and delete that first attempt here. You don't have to. I just like to keep when you do a lot of these zone takeovers, you'll end up having a lot of zones in here, and it can get kind of messy. So, and I don't typically need to hold on to all those different zones. I'm not trying to lock anybody out or anything, so I just get rid of the ones I don't need. So let's go back to the zone that we took over, and we can then add a record set, and we're going to do a text record set, and this is not what I would normally put in a report. Normally my report would be something like this. Oops, if I could type. Something like that, but just to prove that you can create DNS records on this zone. Lower this to a minute. And so if we come back here, we now can see that we are able to fully add new records. So if we go here, this is still going to error out because we don't have an IP for this thing to point to. So that's where you would add here a record set and do an A record to point to the IP address of your proof of concept page. Not going to do that right this second. I might just, we could, yeah, I'm not going to do that right now. But it's totally possible. As you can see, you can add any record you want because you have full control over this DNS zone. So, that was pretty much it. I did leave a little hint somewhere in this video on how to win a prize by doing a subdomain takeover for wwallace.xyz. So if you can get creative, take over I don't know if you can read this, but there are other ways to figure out which subdomain to take over of wwallace.xyz. But feel free to take it over and tweet at me or post in the comments your takeover, and the person who takes it over first will win a prize. Haven't figured it out yet what that prize will be, but thought it'd be kind of fun to sort of start doing some challenges like this. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. This was my first one, so please be gentle. I'm not great at this yet, and I'm gonna do my best to try better and try harder in the future. Appreciate that. Please like, subscribe, and comment below. Thank you.